If I ask a developer to spend more money, I have to show where that extra money really comes back.
Mm-hmm.
In commercial real estate, that may be through lower owner paid operating expenses, a lower capital cost replacement, better tenant economics
Mm-hmm.
from reduced utility expenses, reduced building risk, or a more durable asset.
Welcome, everyone, to the Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Caleb David. This is a show where we create space and we build community. Today, our guest is Paul Kealy. He's the founder and president of EkoBuilt, one of North America's leading innovators in affordable passive house construction. With over 2 decades of experience, Paul challenges conventional thinking by leveraging integrated design, engineering, prefabrication, and certified passive house delivery to make healthier, ultra-efficient, 100-year buildings the most financially compelling choice for developers and investors. Paul, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, David.
Yeah, and I would love to hear a little bit about number one, I would like to know what passive housing means, and also a little bit about your journey and how you got to what you're doing today.
Thanks for asking. So passive house, ultimately a scientifically proven construction model
Mm.
to reduce the operational cost to an absolute minimum. But there's a lot of big health benefits too to the home, which for investors can reap a lot of rewards for tenants, whoever's occupying the building. And personally, the health aspect is where I really got involved with high performance homes.
Mm-hmm.
I started my professional career as a high school teacher. I really thought the best thing I could do is educate kids on how to live a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
But it was really at this time when I started teaching and started looking for my own house to buy, I discovered there was a lack of healthy buildings out there. The healthiest buildings I went into when I was trying to figure out what's that best house for me were actually log homes.
Mm.
Because I just felt that whenever I was in a log home, the air quality was really good.
Mm.
I went into older homes, newer homes. I felt there was a really lack of efficiency with the older homes, of course. But
Yeah.
interestingly enough, most of the older homes had better air quality than anything new I was walking into.
Huh.
And this is where I really dawned. There's a lack of healthy buildings. Felt it was really going to become predominant moving forward. But with my log home experience, I really thought that was the construction model to follow. So got into log home building. Timber frame building is where that evolved mainly because we could do more conventional buildings. You can only put log homes up in certain areas, very small marketplaces.
Yeah.
And really for what made the switch though from a timber frame healthy home to a passive house was when we really hit our part of when I feel the energy crisis started to evolve in North America around 2010, 2012, and really felt that we needed to be not only providing a building with guaranteed healthy air quality, but one that really reduced that operational
Mm.
cost of the building. So I essentially looked at all the construction models out there. I stumbled across passive house. And when I learned that a passive home was a guaranteed healthy home,
Mm.
in the sense that it's actually a house that is guaranteed to be mold proof. So we
Mm.
do offer a mold proof guarantee
Wow.
with our homes as a reinforcing factor that it is a certifiable working passive house that we provide. And essentially the healthier we can make a home, naturally the more energy efficient I'm saying home a lot here, of course, because of
Yeah.
predominantly being involved in the residential building world. But as a company, as we're looking forward to our scale, we're starting to do our own investment projects. Mixed use buildings is
Yeah.
kind of where we're going. So a combination of commercial real estate and residential units in the same building is where I really feel the scale of our company is going to be moving forward. And really here to talk about those benefits and from an investment point of view, when it costs a significant amount to build any type of
Mm.
building, whether it's a code built home or a more high performance home or buildings, commercial real estate here, of course, as well. The more the more healthier we can make a building, translating to better efficiency value is going to translate to better return on investment. And, really just the investment in general for any building has a lot of rewards, reducing the operational cost.
Yeah. And I would imagine that most commercial investors would think, oh, this has got to be really expensive, right? And so how do you talk to people like that, whose perception is fundamentally wrong, when the design, based on what you're doing, you're thinking about design, operational costs, all those things, why do most commercial developers believe that it costs too much?
Well, building anything a little bit better is going to require a bit more of a capital investment. But can high performance homes be that better financial investment? The first thing I'd have to say is it's not automatic, of course. If I ask a developer to spend more money, I have to show where that extra money really comes back.
Hmm.
In commercial real estate, that may be through lower owner paid operating expenses, a lower capital cost replacement, better tenant economics
Hmm.
from reduced utility expenses, reduced building risk, or a more durable asset. And if I can't show these mechanisms really, then I've made an environmental argument, not an
Right.
investment argument. And
Right.
really, what I find is most interesting is that commercial real estate is incredibly sophisticated about debt risk, tenant
Hmm.
risk, market risk, and exit risk.
Yeah.
But my question is, how sophisticated are we about the physical risk of the building itself?
Yeah.
Which I think is really where we are at today with
Yeah.
increased cost of everything. So when we look at the physical risk, we're talking about moisture failure,
Mhm.
mold, building envelope repairs, oversized or frequently replaced mechanical systems, and energy volatility. And
Mhm.
these are all really have big
Yeah,
financial implications,
absolutely.
right? So providing a building that comes with a lot of less risk is really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And from an investment point of view, I think of the concept often called the scissor effect, where poor buildings ultimately are always going to get to the point where increased maintenance cost, operational cost, and future retrofit costs are rising to the point where those costs are really not going to be are going to come to the point where the building is costing more to maintain
Right.
than the actual operational costs of the building.
Yeah. So you talk about these buildings being built for 100 plus years. Can you maybe talk about that versus minimum code standards?
Yeah, so I think of the minimum code building as a building that is really there to last a single generation.
Mm.
And building deterioration is what is driving this home. And reducing those, reducing the, or if we can lengthen the life of a building, a passive house building, since it is moisture protected, is a building that is theoretically going to last an infinite amount of time.
Hmm.
If a building doesn't have to worry about moisture within the building envelope itself,
Yeah.
then theoretically we're going to minimize the risk of that building deteriorating.
Yeah.
So multiple generations, and that could be 100 years, 200 years, 300 years. If
Yeah.
theoretically, a building that's going to last an infinite amount of time is going to prevent those future retrofit costs
Hmm.
that any investor is going to inevitably be up against. Now, if
Yeah.
an investor is getting into the game or getting into the game or has been in the game for a while, and part of the business model is to only hold buildings for a certain
Right.
time period to avoid those future retrofit costs, that would be one business model. But I think most real estate investors would be understanding the long-term investment is part of that strategy. And
Yeah.
a high performance building, if we can build to the passive house levels, then that future retrofit cost is going to be out of the equation, much less risk
Yeah.
and much better value
Yeah.
for the building moving forward, especially when the future resale
Yeah.
happens.
Well, can you talk a little bit about the timing? Like, how long does one of these projects from beginning to end take compared to, say, a traditional development?
Well, the time frame of construction itself is very similar. We do feel that manufacturing has a big part to play here in the production of the actual home.
Hmm.
We, as a company, have evolved to be predominantly a prefab company now,
Hmm.
really reducing the on-site time,
Yeah.
reducing the carrying costs of the building throughout construction. There's a lot of benefits there that prefab is going to provide, reducing the on-site build time frame.
Yep.
But if a code built project was going to, let's say, take somewhere between 12 to 18 months complete, it's going to be very similar
Got it.
for a high performance home as well, because the difference between a high performance home or building and one more code built is really segregated to the building envelope itself. The
Yeah.
outside wall system, the roof system, and the foundation are those main components, but there's not much time that's added for those individual items with respect to
Yeah.
the building envelope.
Yeah. What are some, smart design choices or engineering that goes into this and geometry and there's a whole lot that I would imagine goes into this. So can you maybe talk about what some of those choices are that you make as you're building these to kind of make it as quality of a product as it is?
So the five fundamental principles are insulation, a certain amount of insulation that is appropriate for a building to really reduce the operational
Hmm.
cost. Passive buildings are known to reduce operational cost 80 to 90%. So a proper amount of insulation is number one. But that insulation, anyone that understands building science, building in general, will understand that insulation is only effective if there's a certain degree of airtightness for the building itself.
Yeah.
So airtightness is that second principle. Thermal bridge free design is a third principle,
Okay.
meaning eliminating materials that are both connected to the interior environment and the exterior environment. So there's
Okay.
no pathways, direct pathways for heat leaving the building in the wintertime, and the opposite of that for heat coming into the building
Yeah.
in the summertime. So insulation, air tightness, thermal bridge free design, also high performance windows and doors.
Hmm.
So our conventional windows are really designed with one low E coating that's there to theoretically reflect heat back to the inside of the building in heating season. But your high performance windows also have a low E coating on the outside of the glass, which is there to reflect
Mm.
heat away from the windows in the summertime.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, glazing that when the sun is at a low winter angle,
Hmm.
have glass that has high solar heat gain coefficients so
Mm.
that that free energy can come in and reduce impact
Mm.
on the mechanical systems. And the last principle is high heat recovery ventilation.
Okay.
So any commercial space is going to have fresh air as part of the mechanical system itself, and the more high performance passive house certified fresh air systems have the ability to retain 75 to 90% of the energy from the
Wow.
stale air that's leaving the building and transfer all that energy to the incoming air. So
Wow.
really robust systems that don't impact the energy efficiency of the home from a fresh air quality perspective.
Yeah.
So if we can focus on those five principles, any investor is now going to be building something that's going to naturally conserve 80 to 90% of energy and
Wow.
also provide a super oxygenated environment
Mm.
that is going to keep the air quality healthy. But a big factor keeping the air quality healthy is first having an environment that the building operator can control. And we
Yeah.
can't control the environment without first an airtight enclosure.
Yeah. Well, how do you think forward-thinking commercial investors and developers are kind of using the superior indoor air quality and as a marketing advantage? How have you seen that play out in the market?
Well, I think marketing is something very important there. I think what people in general are realizing is there's a big difference between healthy air and unhealthy air. Mold in buildings is becoming more prevalent now than it has been ever. Building codes, I talk frequently about codes not being to the standard they really need to be to protect
Yeah.
owners, investors, and tenants
Yeah.
in the buildings themselves. But
Yeah.
codes are starting to progress. It is important to note that the United States and Canada have both committed to net zero standards with mandated legislation.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the year is 2040, 2050,
Mhm.
depends on the jurisdiction, where more energy efficient buildings are going to be demanded and codes are
Yeah.
slowly starting to change. But
Yeah.
there's a fundamental part of the code that is not changing, and that is the moisture protection for the building. Ultimately, building systems that are considered vapor open so that no moisture is allowed to harbor within the building envelope itself,
Yeah.
moisture that's able to dissipate and keep the building dry. And
Yeah.
then we're in a situation where we can guarantee that healthy indoor environment. But
Yeah.
mold is becoming more prevalent because the codes are still not demanding
Right.
these moisture protections that are there.
Yeah.
I've had some recent stats where new buildings, 20 to 25% new buildings are experiencing some type of mold,
Wow.
not from a leak in the roof system, but just from systems that aren't
Yeah. Like
airtight,
water
that
heaters.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything. There's if there's high humidity in the building,
Yeah.
that is not airtight, there's going to be a lot of that humidity in the wall system, in the roof system itself, and that's inevitably going to lead to mold.
Yeah, and I know, so I'm in Colorado, and so just north of us, Denver, they're being a lot more aggressive with, switching from just becoming a little bit more electric, a little bit more, a lot more energy efficient. But I know, what do you say to to landlords and or developers that are kind of in that position? Because obviously with an existing building, you can't, there's only so much that you can do. And I know there's a lot of hurdles and expense that comes to upgrading that. How do you see like a building owner or an investor could recuperate some of the costs other than maybe just reduced, utility costs?
Well, I think when if it comes to the point where the building does need to be renovated, retrofitted, there is a way to retrofit any building to get to the standard that we're talking about, but that will involve putting an exterior panelized system
Hmm.
outside of the
Okay.
existing structure, where it would connect to the existing structure and provide all the air tightness, vapor tightness, but also vapor open qualities that a building needs. And that's going to get that operational cost down. But I do understand that a lot of investors aren't necessarily concerned about that operational cost, right?
Right.
Because the tenant is paying that
Right.
themselves most of the time. But I think most tenants are aware now that buildings are costing a lot more to operate than they were 5 to 10
Yeah.
years ago. And if there's options for tenants now, which there's many options, retrofitting buildings to be more healthy and more energy protected from
Hmm.
a conservation level and affordability level. What we're going to see is tenants moving out of those old buildings into new buildings
Hmm.
that really it all comes down now to a space that has a predictable and proven performance.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult now to predict what
Yeah.
any space is going to cost
Yeah.
to operate, from a
Yeah.
heating, cooling, and hot water included, and fresh air included.
Yeah.
It's volatile,
Yeah.
and being in a space that's more controlled is going to allow investors to be more optimized with
Yeah.
respect to their expenses.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, another way to look at it as well is in the retrofit situation, that could be considered a capital expense, right? That can get passed through to a tenant. And I'm not advocating for tenants paying more or landlords paying less. It's just it's a conversation I think that needs to be had, because I think there's a lot of education, because this is brand new information to me. This has been like really insightful. Then I always think about, okay, how does that practically play out in the marketplace, right? And so, but I think if a tenant knows that their building is being retrofitted, for them to have that education and understanding importance of a landlord communicating, yes, you are going to have this initial cost that typically gets passed through like a triple net lease, but the goal is eventually for a higher quality of tenant experience as well as lowering of like utility costs that they would do. So that's one way that I kind of look at it. So I don't know if you have any examples that maybe you've seen play out by chance.
Well, I just have our personal examples, of course, and we hear from our customers what's driving them to build more to build buildings that protect their investment at a
Mhm.
higher level. And there is a big concern about that general affordability.
Mhm.
Affordability is really dominating
Right.
the building landscape now. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter what type of building it is. And being in a space that is protecting your health, but also protecting your energy bills and your utility bills to that absolute minimum are going to
Mhm.
provide the greatest value moving forward.
Yeah. Well, as we start to wrap up, one question I like to ask, and I've started to ask recently, is how your company and EkoBuilt, how your mission aligns kind of with my personal philosophy, which is creating space, building community. How do you see, our two businesses and philosophies aligning?
Well, I think we have to provide proven, guaranteed results, and that is the biggest problem in the building world now in general.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference. There's a big difference when you compare a building with good intentions
Yeah.
compared to one with those proven, predictable results. So what we're trying to focus on is making potential customers aware
Mhm.
that their investment is really only protected if it's proven and if it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So we provide a lot of guarantees around that. We provide a pre-certified passive house guarantee in the sense that we provide all the energy modeling to guarantee the performance of the building. Of course, the guaranteed performance really is susceptible to an air tightness test
Yeah.
and all the hygrothermic moisture modeling to guarantee there's not going to be any dew points happening within the wall and to guarantee that the moisture is going to allow itself to dissipate
Mhm.
across all of our varied climate zones that we do have in North America. So really providing that guaranteed air tightness, hygrothermic modeling is part of it.
Yeah.
Our delivery model is also very important. We do deliver guaranteed certified passive house systems right across North America. We have delivery costs included in our model, and we do send an on-site supervisor out to the job site so that local contractors don't have to worry about any specialized labor component themselves. They're going to be there installing the panels under our supervision.
Right.
So we take the responsibility of that building performing, guaranteed the air tightness, because we know it's going to be installed properly with respect to the wall panels and the roof panels
Yeah.
under our supervision. So that's a big part of it as well. Everything really coming back to the proven predictable performance, which is the main problem, in the code world.
Yeah.
Building codes do assume that there's a certain level of air tightness,
Hmm.
and that's approximately 3 air changes per hour.
Hmm.
So the entire volume of air inside the building, most buildings leak that air naturally through the system.
Yeah.
Could be as little as 3, could be as much as 10 air changes per hour. And unfortunately, there's no testing that is
Right.
required
Right.
unless the builder does that, of course.
Yeah.
And prefab though is a way to really reduce that site time, reduce the financing time through construction. But a good prefab system is only going to be beneficial
Yeah.
if it comes with proven predictability.
Yeah. Well, Paul, this has been just absolutely informative to me. Where our listeners, if they want to reach out to you or get more information and connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
The best way is our website, EkoBuilt, EkoBuilt.com, info@ekobuilt.com, the main email. We're happy to have initial consultations free of charge. We have over 80 designs on our website where investors, homeowners can jump on and find out what it's going to cost from a
Yeah.
feasibility perspective. And of course, there's project management costs, land development costs, permit costs that need to be taken into consideration as well. But we're here to help with that overall budget And when it comes down to doing the math, every investor is going to have their own financial model spreadsheet where
Yeah.
they're inputting the cost of building. But what we have found as a company, if we can limit the incremental cost of a high performance building to 5%,
Mm-hmm.
that incremental cost is going to instantly be offset in utility savings,
Yeah.
operational costs of the building. If tenants and renters are paying that, then of course the investor doesn't have that
Right.
return on the investment, but the return on investment for the investor is preventing that future
Yeah.
retrofit cost scissor effect, which is ultimately inevitable.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for being with us today. Listeners, give this a like, give it a listen, follow Paul and the work that EkoBuilt is doing. As we continue, stay tuned for our next episode. We look forward to sharing more about how we can create space and build more community. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. If today's episode gave you valuable commercial real estate insights, subscribe, rate, and share it. Connect with me and the David Commercial Real Estate team through the show notes. Remember, real estate is more than buildings. It's about building community. See you next time.